Okay, so we left off. We're near the top of Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph. We're on the line down, and we said we're coming off the sugya that says, we had this debate. We're talking about davar shebemini, meaning anything that gets counted is mevato, right? Um, right. So meaning it's not bottle. Anything that the davar shebemini is not bottle, right? Um, right. So we said that there's two. There's Rish Lakish and there's Rabbi Yochanan. Rish Lakish holds that anything that it has to be, um, it has to be kol shadarka limnus, right? It has to be something that it always gets. It has to. Every single person in the world has to sell this thing by the head count. If not, then it will be bottled. And Rabbi Yochanan says, I'm sorry, I said the opposite. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Es shadarka limnus." It has to be the derech. If there's even one person, I don't know if that's true. If it's only one person, but if it's even one person in the world that doesn't sell it by the count, is not then it's going to be bottled. And Rish Lakish says no, as long as the majority of people as long as the majority of people sell it by the head, then that's enough to make it not bottled. And we said that our Tana, that's the machlokes Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, and we said our Tana holds that kol davar, we're on the top line of Ayin Gimel, kol davar sheyesh b'minyan, anything that even has a possibility of being, they're even more makel. As long as some people, even I think, even if the majority don't, as long as majority of people, as long as some people will sell this thing by the head, like the animals or dried figs or whatever it is, then it's not going to be bottled by even a derabanan, and for sure by a deraisa, a mixture that's an issa deraisa. Oh, no. So now we go through this case. The Tanya, second line down. Now, Ayin Gimel Amud. The Tanya litra kitzias shedarsa pi eagle. So if you have a litra of kitzias, litra is a measurement. So basically, what they did was they took the figs and they didn't sell figs by the piece. What they did is they made a cake, a cake of figs, right? And that's how they sold it, right? Um, so now what happened was here is that at the top of one of the fig cakes, there was one that was made out of truma. So we knew it wasn't mixed in, meaning the bottom of the fig cakes were all regular chulin. The top one, like the top piece, was was from truma. Now, okay, so what's the problem? So just take that piece off, right? But ve'ena yedea be'eze eagle darsa, but he doesn't remember which one had the truma, meaning not all of them had the truma. So he had a bunch of fig cakes, and on the top of one of them, it had truma, right? Or that, so that's one case. Or al pi chavis, he put it at the face of a barrel. Ve'ena yedea be'eze chavis darsa, and he has no idea which chavis he he put it into. Al pi kaveres, or a kaveres is like a beehive. So bottom line is it's your classic case of a truma, and we don't know where this thing is. So is the question is it bottle or not? So Rameir says that Rabbi Eliezer says Rayanas al Yanas Ki'ilu Hein Pudas. We look at the tops as if they're separated from the bottom, right? Um, Meaning that they're not considered a mixture. Tachtonis, Milos Elyonis, and the lower dried figs is gonna be Mavato, the top one, right? Meaning Truma we said needs to be 1 in 100. So basically what you do is if you take, let's say, I don't know, I'm just throwing a number out there. Let's say there was 10 of these cakes or 10 barrels, and then the top of one of them had Truma. So what Remeir is saying that Rabbi Eliezer holds, this is hard to fathom how this works. But basically, so let's say we have 10 barrels, each one has 10 figs, and the top of one of them has a truma fig. So if you look at all the barrels together, and then you look at the bottoms and the tops that are separated, then it's going to be batal, right? Even though in that individual one, it's obviously not batal. But if you take all 10 cakes, fig cakes, then it will be batal. So that's what Eliezer is saying, is that you look at them like they're separate, and Memela, the top, whatever one has the truma is going to be batal in the other ones. Rabbi Yeshua says he disagrees. In Yesh Meya Pumin, if there are 100, literally means mouths, meaning if you have 100 of these um, molds or cakes, or what was the other one? Or barrels. If you have 100 of them, then it's batal. Yalu, then it's batal. Vim lav, and if not, apumen asurin, then the mouths are asur, vashulayim mutarim, but the bottoms are mutar, right? Because there's no reason to asur the bottom, right? Because we know the bottoms don't have truma. Just a matter of the top, right? So again, Rabbi Yeshua was saying the classic thing: you need 100 of these barrels. Right? Again, Rameir says that Rabbi Eliezer says that you look at the bottoms and the tops that they're separated. So you look at, even though only one top has truma, you look at all 10, whatever they are, again, using our example, that they're there to be able to be mavatal, that one little truma, even though each one is in its own separate barrel, right? Rabbi Shua says it more traditional, which is that if there's 100 barrels and one of them at the top has truma, then it's batal. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Eliezer says, Im Yesh, Rabbi Yehuda basically is going to upgrade the machlokes. He's going to Rabbi Eliezer Im Yesham Kuf Pumin. If there's 100 of these barrels or baskets or cakes, yalu, then it works. That's Rabbi Shua's, right? That was Rabbi Shua's opinion. So now Rabbi Eliezer is being machmer like Rabbi Shua, according to Rabbi Yehuda's version. And then if not, then the tops are also the bottoms are mutter. And Rabbi Shua, he says even more. He says even if there's 300 barrels, which means that for sure this thing is batal, lo yalu, it doesn't work, right? And the reason why doesn't it lo yalu? Because it's not batal. Why is it not batal? Because they sell these cakes by the individual piece, right? So that's what, meaning even though many times they don't sell it by the individual piece, but Rabbi Shua, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is going to be holding that we sell this, that as long as they sometimes get sold by the individual piece, that's enough. Right? Fine. So that's how you see, that's what our Mishnah is going with this opinion. Then the Mishnah just finishes off, even though this has nothing to do with the rest of the case. Darsa be'eagle, let's say he pressed the leader of figs into an eagle, into a round thing. So then you have this cake, this fig cake, and you know there's one piece in this fig cake that's truma. You don't know if it's in the north part of the cake or it's in the south part of the cake. Tivrei Akol Yalu, everybody holds that it's mavatalit. Right? And what's a pshat? Because Rashi says, since you can't tell, you smashed it. Meaning, normally when you have a piece of truma that falls into other truma, so each piece is individual. So then you'd say it's never batal if it's something that's counted. But here it gets so smashed in, you can't even tell what it is. So Mamela, you're not going to call it a davar shabaminion, which has a lot of ramifications. Like let's say chametz flour falls into in regular flour. I don't know what. No, that's not a good example. Oh yeah, maybe chametz flour falls into potato flour. I don't know, something that you can't tell, and you're not going to sell it by the counting or anything. So then the question is it not batal? Now chametz is not batal for a different reason, but theoretically, if you had these, I don't know what an example would be. Because chametz is the reason why it's not batal is because it's going to be mutter after Pesach, right? So it's davar sheyesh no matirin. Okay, whatever it is, but that's what the Gemara is saying. Fine. Rav Ashi Amar, Rashi has a different shot in our Mishnah. Afilu Tema Rabbanon, you could even say it's going according to Rabbanon, who said that there's only 6 things in the world that are not batul. Balechayim chashivi, because they hold that animals are chashuv. The animals are never batul. Right? Meaning the point is that even though they said there's only 6 things in the world, that wasn't in reference to animals, because animals it's pashut. Animals is pashut. That it's a balechayim, and it's chashuv enough that it's never batul. Fine. Now we get into some wild svaras here of how to get rid of how to try and get a bittul. Yes, the Gemara asks, "V'nimshich v'nikarav chad minayu," or chad minayu. Some say, by Rashi is chad, meaning we need a little bit of hakdama to this, right? We know that when you have a yavish beyavish, so if you have a suffix, so we know the rule kol kavua k'mertza mertza, right? If it comes from something kavua, it's considered like 50-50 and it's not batul. The classic case is you have the nine treif stores of meat and 1 kosher store, right? 9 treif, 1 kosher, and then there's a piece of meat. Depends where you find it. If you find a piece of meat in the store and you just don't have, you don't know which store it came from, right? You don't know which store it came from. So since it was the suffix happened in the store, right? Since the suffix happened in the store, it's considered 50-50, and you have to be machmir. But if you find it in the street in front of the stores, that's called what's it called again? Called the parish, miruba parish. Anything that gets separated, we assume gets separated from the majority. So if the majority of the stores are treif, then the meat's going to be treif. If the majority of the stores are kosher, the meat's going to be kosher, right? So Gemara is going to ask here now, why don't we just pull out one of the animals? Again, with this guy, let's say we're talking about where his kosher carbon got mixed in with a bunch of carbonos of avodah zarah, right? So we said that it's not batul, right? Even if it's in thousands, it's never batul, right? Because it's kavua, it's mertza, and also it's not batul because it's something chashuv, like we said, right? So the Gemara is asking, why not just pull one out? Pull one out, and now that's called it's called the parish. It's considered separated and called the parish meruba parish, right? V'nimshach v'nikrev chad minayu, right? Let's meaning pull each one out, say, okay, this one it's from the rive, and be makriv it. The name are called the parish meruba parish, right? And say anything that's separated came from the rive. So Gemara says, Nimshach, you should pull it out. Havale kavua. And it was kavua. What kind of games are you trying to play here? The suffix happened when it was kavua. You want to pull it out and make it roiv? You can't do that. That's not meaning the shaila happened when it was kavua. Right? So you can't pull that scam. And anything that's kavua is mertza, like we just said. Meaning you can't play games with the suffix. If the suffix happened, meaning, imagine if they have this piece of meat that you found in one of the butcher stores. So we say it's kavua, it's kemertza. So the rabbi tells you, you know what? Why don't you just take it outside? And now call up the rabbi again or text the rabbi again and say, he says, you have a new shaila now. It's from the rive. I mean, you can't. That's way too. You can't do that. That's way too big a scam. Ella nefashinu denaidi. So, what he's saying is do a different thing. Why don't we nichbeshinu really means to kavish, to force, to put pressure on the animals the night that they should move. Meaning, okay, the Gemara is saying, fine, you don't pull out the animals, you're not allowed to pull out the animals. Right? But why don't you, let's say, I don't know, shoot guns off and scares the animals and the animals separate themselves. What?
It's like dropping a bunch of cutlery on the table so you can not do biter and chop.
Very good, very good. That's a yes. That's yes. Right? You get yourself out of the situation. What Gershon's referring to is that if you want to set the table and you have a pile of silverware, this is just an example. You just washed all the silverware Friday night. You want to set the table for Shabbos day on Friday night, and you can't do it because it's biter. Even if you take the good from the bed, it's not considered for immediate use. So what the place can say to do is take the silverware, drop it, so it all spreads out, and now it's no longer a mixture. Right? So what we're saying to do is, okay, so you can't separate the animals. That's a scam. So fine, let the animals separate by themselves, and then name a kol parish, meruba parish. And let's say whatever gets separated from the rive. Amar Rava, so Rava said, Hashtad Amar Rabbanan. That take that doesn't belong. Let's skip the parentheses there. Sometimes we use the parentheses, sometimes not. Here not. Amarava. Shema Yavayu Yod Kahanim Bavas Achas Yakrivu. Here we go. If Rabban Horowitz was on now, Rachamim, he would say, there goes your Kahanim again. There you go, making trouble. Yeah, I'm just representing it. Yes. um, right? Kizera, then maybe 10 Kahanim are going to come at the same time and be Makravit. Right? So obviously he's talking about where the 10 animals is a roiv of this whole mixture. Right? So if they're makr of the dam of the animals at the same time, right? Or they burn it all at the same time, how do you know that the animal, the one that's trade, the one that's not kosher for the mizbeach, is not in there? Right? So Mamela.
Even if you did that, the Raisa would be mutter. Is this the Rashba and Rush, the Machlaikas, Yavish Biyavish?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I thought the other Gemara was maybe, but okay, I don't know. Right? Meaning, so the point is that if you're going to have all those 10 animals going at the same time, so we don't know if the one came from there because it all happened at the exact same time. Right? So then the Gemara says, if that's true, so what the one of the Rabbanan told Rava, so then you should say that when it's already in the Gisa is really means for the dam. Right? Then it should be asur, meaning once you take the animals and they're out from wherever it was that this mixture happened, right? And now they're each blood, they will makabel each blood in a separate bowl. Why did Gemara decides to use the word gisa here? I have no idea. Right? But that's just another spin on it, right? Meaning, so if those were kosher, right? So then the rest of the garment should be kosher. Meaning, what are you worried about when the 10 kahanim go makrivit? So the Gemara says, "Mishum shema yavo yud kahanim b'vas achas v'yikru." No, so we're worried, and not for yikru. Before it was we're afraid that 10 kahanim are going to come and be makrivit. Now we're changing. We're saying it was 10 kahanim may come and take it, right? Meaning, if they come take it at the same time, then you have to be choshed. I think before I explained it as the same time, that was a mistake. Before they might be makrivit at the same time. So the Gemara is changing from that, and now it's saying, well, maybe they come take it at the same time, right? Because since 10 animals is the roiv, so then we have to be choshed that the animal was in the roiv, right? That's what we're always worried about. We're always going to go with the roiv. So here, if they took 10 animals at the same time, we have to be choshed that in that roiv is one of those animals. So the Gemara says, "Ba'asara kehanim b'vas achas mi efsher." Is it possible for 10 kehanim to come take animals at the same time? Right? I don't know why not. Why can't you take 10 animals? The Gemara is assuming you could put the blood on the mizbeach at the same time, 10 at the same time. Right? Why? I don't know. Why can't you have 10 kehanim take it at the same time? I have no idea, but that's the way Rashi says. Meaning, it's because Rashi gets into efshel etzamtzem. Meaning, can it be the exact same time? I don't know. I didn't know that Aaron Horowitz is not going to be on tonight. I was prepared for a whole fight, and now he's not even on. He has a chasana. David, you could tell him tomorrow. I was disappointed. I was ready with my hair was coming in with my guns blazing.
He had round one this morning.
Okay. Anyways, so okay, but we've had other Gemaras where they say, yeah, it can come at the exact same time. Here we're saying no, it's impossible for 10 Kohanim to come grab 10 animals I guess maybe because the animals are moving around, and it's one thing to
Right.
say that, right? It's Rama,
That's what
that's
Rashi
what it is.
says.
Yeah, but you can't
You
get each
scared
and
them.
every one
You
at the same
made a
time.
scare in the middle of the Eder, in the middle of the herd. And they run in 50 different directions. Now you want 10 cam at the exact same time to go get them?
It's a new event in the Olympics. 10 con and projecting at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. What do you call? What is that thing called with the lasso? What do you call it? Whatever. Anyways,
Yeah,
so okay,
lasso. Lasso is the loop. Yeah.
yeah, I knew that word, Malcolm. Don't complain. Yeah. Hello, my Rava. So
It's
Rava
probably
said,
because of the Spanish word, it's from your roots.
yeah. Okay, so we don't like that pshat either. Hello, my Rava B'Shum Kavua.
Rakamim, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think your yarmulke fell off in your last laugh.
Now it's called the Parish Miruba Parish. Yeah. So Elo Marava, so Rava changes pshat. He says Mashum Kavua. Right? The reason is because they might end up taking the animal from the kavua, meaning we're assuming that the way you could be makri these animals, if the animals leave, right, by themselves. But my guy might make a mistake and he may take it from the kavua, and there he's bringing a carbon that's puzzle. Right? So therefore the Chachamim said you can't let it get
This is special by Kachim.
oh yeah,
It's
it is the machlokes Rash ben Rosh. I know what we no, it's a different machlok. I don't know which machlokes Rash ben Rosh are you talking about?
Whether you can eat all three pieces of Yavish B'Yavish at the same
Oh
time.
no, there's a different machlokes. Um, Meaning the shaila is that called parush? I mean, from this Gemara it's mashma. I don't. I mean, you do you understand this Gemara? This Gemara is mashma that if you have a shaila that comes up when it's kavua, right? So you can't go pull it out and say that it's a right. Fine, with that we understand for sure now. But what about if it comes up by itself? So what? The whole shaila still came from when it was kavua.
Yeah, but there has to still be a kvias. If there's no kvias left, then you can't say the Shaila
Then you
came
lose.
up.
Then it loses its status,
Yeah, there is no kvias anymore.
right?
I think that's what it means. That's what Rav is saying here. That atu kavua.
I'm saying without the gezerah. Obviously, the gezerah the rabbanon it doesn't work. Finished,
No,
right?
saying Rav's gezerah isn't that we're geyser parish atu kavua. That doesn't make sense. Call the parish Merubah parish and call kavua kamach tzalmech as a given. There's no gezerah of parish atu kavua. But here, because this Misa is a little bit sketchy, then we're going to be geyser atu kavua.
Right.
But
I hear.
Lamaisa, the Gemara is correct. There is no kavua left. There is no kavua. So you can't say it came from a kavua.
Yeah, but I hear. Um. Okay, but let's just get something straight for the island. Meaning, in theory, it works. If something separates from the kavua, then it works. Meaning, if this piece of meat using the 9-store mushel picks itself up and walks out of the store, so me'ikaradin, it turns into a roiv shaila, which is so hard to understand because when the shaila happened, it was kavua. That's it, finished. So we paskin on this piece that it's no good, right?
Well, that's still a
Then you
shaila.
1 second. Then you remove it, and now we can reach it. Now we change the psak. That's what it seems.
No, I think that's what the Gemara fell off of. We don't say that. You can only do it when naidi.
No, they made the gezerah that you can't do it, but before the gezerah,
No, the Gezerah is by naidi atu kavua, not by removing it. By removing it, me'ikradin, it would work. It wouldn't work because it still comes from a kavua. The kavias is still there. If you break the kvius, then it'll work Meikar Adin. Now you can be geyser. But if you remove the piece of meat from the store, the shaila still came on the kavua. The
Right.
kvius is still there, so the shaila is still a kavua shaila. But if you knock down all the stores and now the piece of meat is outdoors, there's no kvius anymore. The stores don't exist. Then now Meikar Adin, it changes the shaila.
I hear. Right. Okay, but instead, just okay. It's still yeah. Okay, whatever it is, it's not the whole thing is not easy. But the point is that the Chacham made a gezerah, right? The Gemara that you can't do this. First, the Gemara thinks because 10 kaihanim might be makriv. Then the Gemara says that doesn't work. So then they said, okay, 10 kaihanim might take it at the same time. The Gemara says that's impossible. Then the Gemara says because maybe the guy's going to take it when it's kavua. Okay, fine. Weiter Amar Rava. We're about 7 lines down. Amar Rava. 10 lines down. 10 lines down. Hashta damri rabbana loy nakriv. Now that the Chacham said you're not allowed to be makriv, eat nakriv loy maratzi. If you do bring it, then the carbon doesn't work. Right? We learned in the beginning of the Masechta sometimes you could bring a carbon, not lechatchilu v'diavad, it counts. Right? So what the Gemara is saying now, even though let's say the guy takes, the Chachamim said if you have a kosher animal that gets mixed in with these other non-kosher animals, then it's not bottle, right? And it's no good. So now what happens if you makriv all the animals in the mixture, right? Let's say there's 25, let's go with 1,000 animals. We're saying you can't bring any of them, and the guy brought all of them, right? So what are we saying? Meaning he for sure knows he was yaitza, right? He knows he was yaitza, for sure he brought a kosher animal. He said, no, it doesn't work, right? So Rav Huna, that now you get into the whole thing with the Chachamim have the koyach to take something that doesn't really work. I mean, that really does work, and they could say it doesn't work, right? You have a chatas that was mixed with an oila. And an oila that became mixed with a chatas. Even if it's 1 in 10,000, meaning a chatas that got mixed in with 10,000 oilas. Yamusu kulan, they all have to die. Right? This is another one of those Mishnayos and Kinim. Right? Why do they die? Because you don't know. We know that the chatas and the oila goes to the top half of the mizbeach, over the chut hasikra, over the red line, and the chatas goes below. And if you do the opposite, it's no good. So since you have no idea in this mixture of 1 in 1,000, so you have no idea what to do. So mamela, the whole thing, they all have to die. That's if the kohen comes to ask. And he says, what am I supposed to do with this? So we tell him, you can't do anything. You got to kill everything. But a kohen who didn't ask, asan lamala. So if he put them all lamala, meaning the blood on the top half of the mizbeach, mechza kosher, mechza pasul, then half are kosher, and then half are pasul, right? Meaning, if he did everything on the top half, so we know that half is kosher and half is pasul, right? Lamata, if he did a lamata, mechza kosher, mechza pasul, it's half and half. Achas lamata v'achas lamala. But if you put 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom, then Shnei Psulis, then they're both puzzled because we had no idea which went to where. Meaning it's a 50-50. It's a 50-50 chance. Meaning if the Chatas went above, so he's good. If the Oila went below, so the opposite, then it's fine. But we don't know, so it's a 50-50. So Shani Yomer, Chatas Kreva Lamala, Oila Kreva Lamata, because I'm going to say that it worked against him. The Chatas was above, which it's not supposed to be. And the oila was below, which it's not supposed to be. Right? Bottom line is, the first part of this Mishnah tells us that if they were makriv all of the animals, then he's going to be yaitza. Right? Meaning, had he asked, he would have been told not to be makriv. The Maisa, he was makriv. Right? And we say it works. So what's pshat if we're going to tell him, the Chacham are telling you that you can't be makriv, and we just said that it doesn't work, so then why here does it work? Ella, kimando amar bali chaim nitchin. So what do we have to say? This Rava is going according to the Mandomer that says a Bal Chai, meaning an animal. Once an animal becomes not kosher to be brought on the Mizbeach, then it stays forever and it can never become kosher again. Right? Mandomer, but the Mishnah is going with the Mandomer. It says Bal Chaim ain't a nitche, Bal Chaim are not nitche. Meaning this the Mandomer in Kinim that says the korbanos are okay, right? If the psul comes back, then it's not a problem, right? Yeah. But if you say that it's meaning it's interesting because it's still a machlokes, right? We asked the kasha from Rava, from a Mishnah. So when Rava's not giving us a teretz, he's just saying, yeah, it's a machlokes in the Mishnayos, whether we hold to this concept or not, right? So because he holds that Balei Chaim are not nidchim forever, and yes, it was made puzzle, but if b'di'evet somebody was magrivid, then it works. That's what he holds, right? So then the Gemara says, "But harei shchutin." What about shechted? The lekuliyam and nidchin. Everybody holds that once a shechted animal becomes puzzle, it stays puzzle forever. On Talmud Aleph, V'tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer says, "Imkarav haroish shel echad me'en." If karbonas, this is a Mishnah coming up in a few lot. If you had a shechted animal with a mum that got mixed in with non-mum shechted animals, meaning obviously kachim. So Rabbi Eliezer says if somebody brought the head of one of the animals, then yikru kol haroshim, then you're allowed to bring all the heads. Meaning, one of them brought a head. He wasn't supposed to, right? Because it's not batal. And then he went and was makrav anyways. The assumption is that the one, Rabbi Eliezer is saying, the assumption is the one that he brought was the puzzle one. Memela, everything else is going to be kosher. All right? So what do you see? That you see that even though the shaila happened after the animals were dead, and they were all puzzle, right? They were all puzzle, but if something happened to make them kosher, namely that the one of them was brought, and we're going to assume that one was the treifa one. So then we see that they become kosher again. So Gemara says, "Huda Amar Chanana Mitzri." The Tanya Chanana Mitzri Yomer. He goes like Chanana Mitzri because the Brisa says Chanana Mitzri says, "Afilu dam bekois." Even if there's blood in the cup, maybe chavera, you bring another animal umzavik loy and you mazavik to it. This is talking about Yom Kippur, right? We know we have the two seirim. One gets shechted and stays in the Beis Hamikdash, and one goes to the Lazazel. Right. So what happened is when they shechted the animal, the seir, in the Beis Hamikdash, and they were makabel the dam, and then they found out that the goat for the Azazel died. Right. So what does he say to do? Bachanan Mitzri says you just bring another one, and you just hook it up with this one. Right. Now, really it should become puzzle because the two seirim are connected to each other. Since they're connected to each other, and it became puzzle because its partner died, so then you should have to bring a whole new seir and shecht it in the Beis Hamikdash again. But Chanan Mitzvah says you don't have to. You just bring a new one. You just replace it. All right. So you see that he's going like Chanan Mitzvah, who says that even a dead animal, once it can become kosher again. All right. Yeah. Okay. I hope that was understandable. We'll stop over there.